Welcome to Tuesday Tea Time. On Tuesday for a change. I am here in Switzerland still, and I just wrapped up a really great clinic with all of my Swiss students, and I have a couple of days off before I head on to Germany. So I thought tonight we'd talk about emotional cycles. I've been talking about this so much in my clinic and with my online students. If any of you guys are interested in joining, I have an online course starting in July. But until then, I thought I would share a little bit with you all about this theory of emotional cycles. This is something that I have been aware of for a long time, but I'm starting to talk about it more and more. And it's really been fun. So I've been doing the same work with horses for a number of years, ever since I filmed that first movie with Myrna. And I discovered how much fun it is to take away all the tools and train without so much pressure. Now, is there pressure? Yeah, there's still pressure, but to minimize pressure to the greatest degree I can understand. This is really fun for me. So the ways in which we understand that and we do that is pretty similar from day to day, but every once in a while, I stumble on a new idea that really helps me understand it better. And this idea of emotional cycles is something that I've really been diving into in the last month or so, and it's really helping me. So I thought I'd share it with you guys. The idea is what goes up must come down, and what goes down must come up again. If your horse is alive, they will not stay upset forever. They will calm down eventually. If they are alive, they will not stay asleep or eating forever. I promise. They will wake up and do something else at some point. Understanding that these cycles are perpetual, they are always going around, is incredibly helpful when we're training. We don't have to train emotional cycles. We have to be aware of them. Can we train them? Yes, we can. But first, before we train them, we have to be aware of how they naturally occur. So the first thing I do when I have my students work with their horses is show the horses they know what part of the emotional cycle is coming next. So we have two choices with our horses when it comes to timing. We are active and somewhat distracting, or we are passive and non-distracting. And it's the switch between being non-distracting and being distracting that shows the horse we're paying attention to what happens next. So as a horse escalates into a state of concern where they are pushing or pulling, this is a state where if you don't take action, you will be provoked into action. And the horse wants to see, do you know them well enough to go to action before you are provoked? This is one of the first things we do, just to show the horse, I see you, I know what's going to happen next. You don't have to provoke me into action. I can do it before I am provoked. So this is going into action before they're concerned. Then as they come down in their stress levels, they're going to settle into a state of curiosity, hopefully. This is where their sensory system moves without their body changing. So it's going to be easiest to see this at the standstill. At the standstill, you'll be able to see their ears move, their eyes move, their breath move. You're going to see their sensory system take in information. And when their sensory system takes in information without their feet changing, they're using their brain and their sensory system better. That's your state of curiosity. This is where you're going to get the most work done. This is where you're going to have a partner in your horse, not just a slave. That's great. That middle zone is what we're all aiming for. Now, comfort is your relaxation state. So comfort is going to be eating. It's going to be sleeping. It's going to be staring off into the horizon without any change in thought. And that's really, really important for memory retention. So horses are going to remember things better if they've had a small break where they're not taking in extra information. So those are your cycles, and they're going to cycle through them. Now, they don't always do that in that order. So they're going to go from comfort to either curiosity or concern. So if stress rises slowly and gradually, they're going to go into curiosity first and gather information in through their five senses. Then if they hold one focus for too long, longer than their nervous system can handle, it's going to escalate into concern, where they push into their friends or pull away from their friends. That push or pull behavior tells you that they're sort of at the top side of that cycle. If you think of it as a circle, they're going to cycle up into concern. They won't stay there forever. They just can't. If they're alive, it will come down again. I promise. Now, how long is it going to take? I don't know. Kind of depends on the external factors. It depends on what's stimulating them. But I promise they cannot stay in concern forever. They're going to come down. If they come down gradually, they're going to come through curiosity, where they gather more information through their senses without changing their feet. Then it's going to come all the way down into comfort, where they can rest and remember. So what do we do with this information? First step is we learn how to predict it. Second step is we prove to the horse we can predict it, and we can predict it reliably. So if you can show your horse physically, you know which state comes next, they'll start to trust you more. Then we can start to shape it. So how do we shape it? Well, ultimately, we want more of the curiosity state, because that's where we can get the most done, where the horse is a partner, not a slave, where we're not pressuring them into behaviors. They're doing things that interest them. They're doing things that light them up. They're doing things that tickle their senses. That's what most of us want. Once we have them in that curiosity state, we need to be non-distracting. Let them enjoy that state of being without distraction. Now, how do we make that more of their life experience? There's a thing that we have to remember. Horses only want more of something they don't have enough of. So unfortunately, that means we have to disturb them before they get tired of the curiosity state, before it would end naturally. Okay, so if you really want your horse to have more curiosity, we have to change something while they are still curious. Then we have to let them rest and remember how good that was, and then change something before they go to concern. This is a little bit of a game, and it's sort of an art form. There's no exact science to it, because every horse is a little bit different. Everybody cycles a little bit different. But this is something that I've been playing with, and it's really fun. Now, if we really want them to enjoy more of this curiosity state, it's like a muscular system. It has to get stronger. And the way it gets stronger is by them practicing it. They practice things, they repeat things that they remember, and they repeat things that they get attention for. So we have to find a way to give them attention for being curious, let them rest after they have been curious so they remember it, and repeat. When we see these cycles, we don't have to cause them. We just have to show the horse we see them, we understand them, and sometimes we interrupt them a little bit. We distract from them. Hey, Kristen, welcome to Tea Time. It's nice to have you guys join me. I know a lot of people watch this after the fact, but those of you who join me live, thank you. And feel free to ask any questions you have. I talk about things that interest me, but I am also open to questions and ideas and conversation. That's what makes all of this really interesting. So when I'm working with a horse, I'm interested in their participation, their questions. So if they're curious about something, I'll give you an example. They look up at the horizon because they see an animal walking. They're curious about that movement in the distance. in that curious state, if I think that it's going to stay curious, it's not going to rise into concern where they push or pull, but it's just going to stay where they're using their senses, not their body, then I'm going to stand and be non-distracting. Before they hyper-focus too long and they start pushing or pulling, I'm going to go to some kind of distracting action. This could be moving around the horse. If I'm doing a little bit more pressure training, it might be causing the horse to move or causing the horse to think about something different. That's not usually what I do, but that is an option. When their stress comes back down, so they come back down, they stop pushing and pulling, and they come into the curiosity zone again. Again, I'm going to become non-distracting. Here's where it gets fun though. When you train this enough times, you're going to find they spend more and more time in the curiosity zone. Then it becomes a time that you could ask them to do something. For example, if I want to pick up a horse's hoof, when in their emotional cycle is the best time to do it? So when they're pushing me or pulling against me, not the best time to ask them to pick up a foot. It's only going to get worse. When they are really sound asleep or really busy eating grass, I'm going to struggle a little bit to pick that foot up because they're too deep in comfort to notice that something is happening. So the ideal time to ask them to pick up a foot is when their ear is twitching just a little bit. They're not fully interested in something yet, but you can just see their brain starting to wake up. This is the ideal time to ask for something, except if you want to train them to like curiosity more, because asking them to do something is in nature distracting. And if you distract them from their curiosity, they're less likely to remember it and repeat it. So we have to decide, am I training curiosity here, which is the first step? Or am I using curiosity to train behaviors? And this is a really interesting choice that you have to decide, because if you use your curiosity too often to train a behavior like picking up the hoof when you want to, they're going to start becoming a little less curious, a little bit more comfortable, or a little bit more concerned. And so what we do is we train curiosity until there's an abundance of it. And then we feel like their curiosity strength is really good, then we're going to use that strength to train behaviors. And that's really something that I've been enjoying watching the cycles of. Kristen says, my pony switched stables 1 week ago. Now there's a lot curiosity options available. So yeah, so when you have something new happen, like a change in stables, there's a lot of new things to be curious about. And you get to decide, do I want to use this opportunity to really train curiosity into my horse, because it's such a positive state for the animal. And it's a place where they feel really alive and really good and they remember things well. Or do I want to use that curiosity to train actions and behaviors that I have in mind? So I promised you guys I would give you sort of the basic idea up front, and we talk some theory about it, and then I give you a little bit of a story about it. So here in Switzerland, we were working with a horse picking up hooves, and it was really funny. It was a really sleepy afternoon, and he was really, really quiet. The ears and the eyes weren't moving very much, and we would just wait, because we came into harmony when there was some curiosity. That meant we were reinforcing it. By being in harmony, we were being non-distracting, letting him fully listen to that thing that he wanted to listen to with his ears. Then we just let him fall asleep so that he could remember what it was that he heard. And then as he started to wake up and that ear started to twitch a little bit, we'd use it to ask him if he could pick up his hoof. And at first we didn't even try and hold it. Just pick up the foot, let it go back down. And then after the foot came down, if there was a little bit of curiosity again, we'd pause, let him rest, remember it. And then as that ear twitched a little bit, he's ready to do something else. That means he's not going to argue as much when we go to pick up that foot. And we're going to pick up the foot, keep it light enough that we're not punishing the curiosity. We're just making use of a good part of the emotional cycle to do something really useful. After the foot goes down, we look for the curiosity, we rest again, let him fall asleep, let him remember it, and then repeat. At some point, we might hold the foot for longer. Maybe while the foot's off the ground, we go through an emotional cycle, which means that I've picked the foot up when the ear twitched, so he's a little bit curious. Now I'm going to hold it, and as I hold it, he might fall asleep again, but he also might escalate into concern. And I know he's going to be in concern when he starts pulling that foot a little bit forward or pulling it, pushing it back, or just kind of not being comfortable letting me hold it. We are going into the concern part of the cycle. I'm not going to drop the foot there, if possible. We're going to let that cycle come all the way back around. And as it comes around, if he's either in curiosity or in comfort, I can put that foot down. I'm going to stay in action after I put the foot down. I'm going to pet his neck. I'm going to talk to him. I'm going to walk around him until I see that flicker of curiosity. Then we're going to pause. Let him rest. Let him remember. And then repeat. So when do you hold on through the cycle? When you can, but not too often. Because if you started at a state of curiosity and you hang on into concern, it almost begins to be like you're punishing that curiosity. So I like to stay under the threshold of concern most of the time. Occasionally we're going to cross that line. And when we cross that line, we're going to see if we can just hang on through it, come out the other side, and let go and release as we come back into the curiosity or the comfort state of mind. We're not going to stop and become non-distracting until we're back in that mid-zone of the curiosity. So it's just 3 states. They cycle around all the time. They're perpetually going up, going down. Timing what you do in those 3 states is incredibly powerful, way more powerful than you might realize. So I've been talking about this more and more in my clinics and my courses, and it's been a really useful tool for a lot of people. So I thought I'd share it here in Tea Time. I see that we've got a little comment here from Christian. He says, started to walk around the surrounding woods. His movement's pretty quick, curious about the terrain. Okay, so that actually leads me to question whether it's fully curious, because if his movement is pretty quick, that implies that maybe his walk is changing, not staying steady. Curiosity is specifically when the feet are not changing. So it can be at the walk, but it's at a non-changing walk. It means it's not turning, it's not stopping, it's not speeding up, it's maintaining. If the horse has to speed up, slow down, turn, this is when they've peaked into the concern part of the cycle. Something is not good enough for them. Something has to change. It's not bad. It's not wrong. It's just part of the cycle. And so it's really good to be aware when those changes start coming up. Kristen says, I'm not sure if I heard it from you. Breaks are valuable for learning. Give the brain time to process every single detail. Yep. I think there's a lot of us that say that. So when we take a break, we just need to be a little bit aware. What's the last thing that happened? What's the last event they're probably remembering when they go into that break? And Kristen says, so what about the zebra picture? I got to meet a zebra today. It was just a friend of a friend who happens to have been given a zebra a very long time ago. And I got to go spend a little time with him. And it was really lovely. I've never been that close to a zebra. I hear they're really wild. This one really was not. We did give him quite a bit of respect. We stayed at the front end. My understanding is that he's not trained to do a lot of things. He gets to just be a zebra in a fairly natural environment with friends. And he really enjoyed the feel and timing that I use with horses. I don't know that I spent long enough with him to know how he's different from horses, but I do feel like this cycle of concern, curiosity, and comfort was pretty evident in the zebra, just like I see in the horses. So I was able to use that to know when was a good time to reach out to him. Reaching out to him is a slightly distracting behavior. When was a really good time to be still? When was a really good time to scratch him? Reading the behaviors and the emotional cycles was really useful. He's not a horse, but the same rules seem to apply with the zebra as I use with the horses. So this is just something that I find is pretty consistent among herd animals. Emily says, thank you, Elsa. I think it was meant to hear this today. I'm going to take those thoughts into my hoof trimming work. Let me see if there's more here to the comment. Have a couple of horses in mind that I can apply this to. Yeah. So I've found this is a really, really good thing to be aware of in something like hoof trimming, where we specifically have a behavior we want. And I will say that most horses do best when they associate hoof trimming with falling asleep, just relaxing, going into that comfort state. But it may not be easiest to get their foot off of the ground when they're deep in that comfort state. So if you can get a horse that's sort of cycling between comfort and curiosity the most, that's going to probably be the easiest time to pick up their feet and work with them. Timing it cycle after cycle after cycle after cycle gives them a really good positive association with having their feet handled. If you can pick up their feet and put them down at the right time 500 times in a row, they build such a good association that even if you pick them up at the wrong time, they're likely to do a good job because they have this history that picking up their feet feels a certain way. And then when you do it at the wrong time, it just tends to nudge them into the right part of the cycle. So this is what a lot of freedom-based training is for me, is to work with their natural cycles, pair behaviors, pair actions to the good things in their emotional cycle. And then later, when you do those actions or behaviors or movements randomly, you'll find it nudges them into the good part of their emotional cycle. So Christian says he likes giving hay while doing hoof trimming. That can be really useful, Christian, because when they're eating hay, they're very often in a comfort state where they're not really tasting anymore. They're just eating. And that can be really, really useful when we're trimming their hooves. Sometimes we need to notice as they come in and out of their emotions. Even as they're eating hay, you're going to see when they stop to take a breath, or when they look up across the yard, or when their balance gets a little bit off and they have to shift their weight. So that sort of discomfort of my balance is a little off and I need to shift my weight, that's going to be when they peak up into the concern state. Something needs to happen. It's our job to work around those concern states and not come face to face and confront them until we've built enough good associations that we know that confrontation can go well, that we can sort of get through the confrontation gracefully and out the other side to a good feeling together. So I hope that helps you guys. It's what's been on my mind lately. I will be in Germany next week, so Tea Time will be from Germany next week. I know I will see a few of you there, and then I'm on to the UK and on to Indiana and then on to the California Horse Expo. So thank you guys so much for joining me for Tea Time, and I love meeting you here, and I love giving you ideas to think about. And I look forward to next time we meet.